In today's video, we're going to start the basement project. So, like I said in my empty house tour video, I'm going to be converting this entire basement into my new home office and studio for all of my work. So today we begin with the framing job. So I'm going to be managing the entire project myself, and for me, this is something I've never done before. So I'm really looking forward to seeing how it all turns out. As you can see right here, the space is pretty empty. There's nothing done. The walls are unfinished. Everything is unfinished, but it's going to be transformed here very soon. I've been waiting for this one and planning it for a long time now, so let's see how it all goes down.
While I was hunting for a home about a year ago, I specifically looked for homes with open concept basements in order to use as a home office, a studio, and a man cave. Since I was buying new construction, I had the option to either have the builder finish the basement or leave it unfinished at a lower cost. Of course, I chose to leave it unfinished, giving me complete control over its design and construction. I managed to get a walkout basement design added on, which was totally worth the extra cost. You know how basements can be super dark and gloomy since they're underground? Yeah, I wasn't really about that life, so getting that big window and outdoor access from below was a game changer. My basement is around 661 square feet, so not very large, but it works for what I need. It has a pretty sweet layout with this massive glass door and window that takes up a whole wall. That door lets you walk straight into the basement from outside, which is going to be very convenient to use. On the other side of the room, there's this little nook that I'm planning on turning into a theater, and right next to that, you've got the mechanical room. There's also a staircase leading up to the main floor right next to the mechanical room there. The only thing that bugs me about this basement design is the support post that was put smack in the middle of the room. I wish they'd gone with the metal beam above it instead of wood, because that would have prevented needing a post there. The layout was perfect for what I wanted to do, which was to add a couple rooms while keeping most of the space open and easy to move around in. The two new rooms would be a home theater setup and a bathroom. To begin the transformation process, a few walls had to be put up first in order to create the new rooms. This stage, called framing, usually involves building the structural framework of a building using wood studs. I paid a friend who does this professionally to help me out with it, as this was not something that I had ever done before or had experience with. The next thing I did was pick up some regular lumber and pressure treated wood from a bulk supply store, mostly 2x4s with a few 2x6s thrown in there. The whole framing process was pretty quick, and they were able to get all the new walls up within 2 days. They also had to lower the ceiling in the theater room to hide the HVAC stuff and make it look really clean. Yeah, it made the ceiling a bit lower than the rest of the basement, but since it's going to be a media room anyway, that wasn't really an issue. After framing was done, I started working on rough-ins. This part had two main jobs: plumbing and electrical work. I spent some time finding good contractors who knew what they were doing and had all the right licenses. We kicked things off with plumbing rough-ins, and boy, that was a mess. My plumber Jay had to dig up quite a bit of the floor to put in the pipes for the toilet, the shower, and the vanity. While he was at it, I had him run some extra lines for a wet bar I wanted on the other side of the bathroom wall. City inspector came by to check everything out. We passed, and then we just had to patch up the floor with some quick dry concrete before moving on to the electrical stuff. A couple days after patching up the floor, my electrician came in to begin as part of the process. This stage required buying a whole bunch of materials needed to rough in power receptacles, Ethernet jacks, pot lights, and a ton of other specialty add-ons. I had to plan this stage very carefully to make sure everything I could ever need relating to electricity was covered. We went through two massive rows of 14 2-gauge wires, adding power outlets virtually everywhere, including the ceiling. Since this wasn't going to be any typical basement, I also had a ton of Cat 6 cables ran all across the entire space for future Ethernet jack locations and hardwired internet connections. I also picked up mounting brackets for the putt lights to help with installation and to guide the drywall team on exactly where to cut. My plan called for 12 4-inch putt lights spread evenly across the open space. In the bathroom, I installed a single mounting bracket in the center for a 6-inch putt light. As for the theater room, I decided to go with an octagonal box, giving me flexibility to install any type of lighting fixture later. I also had low voltage wires installed for LED lights and speakers. For ambient lighting in the wet bar, I ran wires beneath both shelves and under the toe kick as well. Throughout the open area, I installed speaker wires in each quadrant for 4 ceiling speakers that I plan on installing later. The theater room got wired for a 7.1 Dolby Atmos surround sound system, 3 speakers on the main wall, 2 in the rear, 2 in the ceiling, and a subwoofer rough-in on the right wall. All of these locations needed careful planning well in advance to ensure proper placement. In the bathroom, I had rough-ins installed for a mirror with built-in LED lighting, eliminating the need for a separate vanity light. For this, I used another octagonal box directly wired to a light switch. I also had the electrician add a rough-in for a future thermostat to control the bathroom's in-floor heating. Since the shower head featured built-in LED lighting, it also needed power. So I had to install a 15 amp receptacle rough-in right in the ceiling of the theater room. This was supposed to be for easy access later down the line. Other key rough-ins included power receptacle locations for the smart toilet and an LED strip beneath the vanity. All of the Ethernet cables and speaker wires were routed to the mechanical room, the future home of my network rack, and my media server. I also made sure to add a dedicated power outlet in that room specifically for the network rack. For the HVAC stage, I needed to add several vents for climate control and also install a bathroom fan. I researched various options to control the basement's temperature independently from the other floors. After my research, I chose a solution that balanced cost and effectiveness. I installed 8 by 8-inch smart vents that automatically open and close based on user settings. Though I'd never used them before, I was excited about their automated climate control capabilities. Since the house had round vents pre-installed, I needed them modified to fit these square ones. During this process, I added an extra vent in the open area and a small round one in the bathroom. Late in the electrical rough-in stage, I discovered that the smart vents could be hardwired instead of running on batteries, so I quickly added the necessary wiring. A few days after ensuring all rough-ins were completed and verified, I brought in help for insulation and drywall installation. This was a crucial stage since it would lock in all previous decisions made during the rough-in stage. I chose to use multiple layers to create a well-insulated and a soundproof space. We started off with sound-absorbing fiberglass using 13 bags of safe and sound rock and wool to insulate nearly every wall and ceiling space. The second layer used was Sonopan, which is a recycled wood product that's excellent for sound absorption. Though it's irritating to the eyes, the nose, and skin during installation, its superior sound dampening properties made it worth the hassle. I had it installed in the same locations as the safe and sound fiberglass to maximize sound absorption throughout the space. So far, we've got them everywhere in here. We even got them underneath the stairs so we can prevent all the walking up and down from transferring down here. You can see it right there, right behind the drywall, creating a layer of soundproofing, which is extremely important as this will be used as a studio. Besides that, we've also got sound bars. You can't see them, but I've only got those on the ceiling. They add an extra half-inch thickness to the entire, whatever they're added, so I didn't want to add them to the wall in order not to reduce the size of the room. The final layer that I added for soundproofing was a thicker type of drywall. So 5/8 drywall, they're heavier and they're much thicker than the usual half-inch. Using 5/8 drywall means even more sound dampening, which is exactly what I needed. Now, soundproofing isn't the only reason why I decided to add all of these layers to the basement. I also decided to do it so I could maximize on savings when it comes to energy consumption. The end goal was to reduce sound transmission between the theater room and the office, as well as between the entire basement and the main floor of the house. And at this point, I could tell it was a great decision. Using multiple sound absorption layers and thicker drywall cost more to implement, but it was totally worth it for my needs. Now that we're done with soundproofing and putting up the drywall, the next stage is mudding, sanding, and taping. Now this gets messy, gets really dusty, even dustier than drywall. At least that's what I've been told. I've never done it before. I've got some professionals coming in to take care of stuff like that. This is supposed to take about a week because I'm going for level 5. So 5 levels is what you can go for in terms of the smoothing or the mudding, because they'll have to do it in coats. And I'm doing 5 levels because the ceiling above me is supposed to be flat. I'm not doing any popcorn style or any textured ceilings or whatever. It's just going to be a flat ceiling. And in order to hide all the imperfections in the drywall, we need to do multiple layers. So we're going for 5 on the ceiling. Just the ceiling though. The rest, I think I might go for something less than 5. Maybe 2, maybe 3 coats. We'll see. After mudding, taping, and sanding were complete, I brought in my expert Richie to build and tile the bathroom. With over 30 years of experience, I had complete confidence in his skills. For the bathroom, I chose a shower over a bathtub for a more premium result. Shower tub combos are usually a budget option, while a custom tiled shower is the only way to go if you want something truly high-end and unique. The drywallers installed water-resistant drywall boards in the shower area, and Richie installed the Schluter system on top. This modern waterproofing membrane creates a watertight barrier before laying tiles. During this step, I also asked him to add a shower niche for shampoo, body wash, and other essentials. While Richie completed the Schluter system, I went out shopping for tiles. After checking through a bunch of local stores and online options, I found a color combination that would create a unique and a luxurious look that I was after. I opted for warm-toned tiles with straight-line patterns for the shower walls, small black square tiles for the shower floor, and terrazzo tiles for the outside area. I also went ahead and picked up olive green tiles for the wet bar backsplash that would be installed later. The next morning, Richie returned to lay out the tiles. By midday, he had fully installed the bathroom wall tiles and prepared the pad for the in-floor heating system. He installed a network of heating cables across the Schluter pad, focusing on high traffic areas like the shower entrance, for example. The next day, he returned to grout and clean the wall tiles, then installed floor tiles both inside and outside the shower area. This completed the shower building stage. For the painting phase, although I could have handled it myself, other priorities led me to hire a professional. I'm glad I did this because he did an excellent job applying 1 coat of primer and 2 coats of white paint evenly throughout the space. During the painting work, I began shopping for flooring materials, doors, casings, and baseboards. I chose 8mm thick LVP flooring in a warm tone that would easily complement the bathroom wall tiles and enhance the space's overall aesthetic. I ordered 2 custom solid core doors, one for the mechanical room and another one for the theater room. The reason I opted for solid core for these rooms was for sound absorption. On the other hand, for the bathroom, sound absorption wasn't a priority, so I picked up a simple hollow core door from Home Depot to fit the rough opening. For baseboards, I picked up unconventional 6-inch sized ones that would look really good and make the space feel more high-end. Usually, most new builds tend to come with 4-inch sized ones, which don't look that great to be honest. While all 3 doors, baseboards, and the casings came either primed or in white, I wanted them black. After purchasing some satin black paint, I tackled the painting project right away. Though the process proved more time consuming and tedious than I had expected, I was happy to be able to complete it.
Okay, so we're in the final stages, or at least it's time to start adding the finishing touches. So all the final fixtures, lighting, baseboards, casings, doors, the cool stuff, the stuff that really makes this place pop. I decided to go with an all-white color for the interior walls, as you guys can see right here. And the main reason for that is because this is going to be a studio space, so it needs to have good lighting. So the lighting that comes into the space needs to be accentuated, not absorbed. I'm going to be using drapes here as well, so to block out the light. I'm gonna have some artificial lighting that will remain consistent most of the time, but sometimes I'm still going to use some natural lights coming directly from the doors and the window. Now, I had some help during the roughing stage as well as during the painting stage, but I did do some of the work that I could handle or that I had time for. Now, I'm going to be doing the same for the finishing stages here. There's a few things that I will be doing, but I'm going to be leaving some of the work to some professionals as well to make sure that it turns out good.
I couldn't finish all the electrical work that evening since I ran out of supplies, which usually happens during these kind of projects. The next day, my floor installer came in to work on the baseboards, casings, and the doors. He quickly installed the window and door casings, then put in all 3 doors before wrapping up for the day. After he left, I got back to my electrical work, finishing most of it that evening and installing everything else except the smart vents the following morning. The floor installer returned with some helpers the next day to complete the final casings and also to install the floors. The extra hands he brought with him really sped things up. The whole job was done in under 6 hours, and truthfully, it transformed the look of the space immediately. I purchased several vents to install throughout the house, including the basement, for a unified climate control. I started in the theater room by enlarging the cutouts to fit the vent. After that, I connected the pre-run low voltage wire and then mounted the base into the opening. Before securing it with screws, I tested the connection by powering up the vent in the mechanical room, and then once I confirmed that it was working properly, I secured the base with 2 screws and then attached the white faceplate. I went ahead and repeated this same process for the other 3 vents in the open area. On the back end inside the mechanical room, I had wires for all vents routed to where the electrical panel was located. Using a splitter, I connected them to a single wire, which then connected to an AC transformer to provide constant power through the parallel circuit. To complete the setup, I installed two control pucks, which were sold separately from the vents for convenient manual control. I mounted one of them on the central post in the open space and another one inside the theater room. This setup is intended to allow me to adjust the temperature in each area independently without affecting the other parts of the house. Next, my Lutron Smart Shades arrived. I'd ordered two large Serena shades for the door and the window, an expensive but necessary addition for this space. To save money, I opted for DIY installation instead of professional mounting. I added a Pico remote to the wall in between both for manually controlling them, and also connected both to the Lutron and the Apple Home apps for automated operation. As we neared the end of the basement renovation, it was time to finish the bathroom. The same plumber who did the rough-in handled the first phase. He began by installing my new smart toilet, an expensive purchase which I absolutely do not regret. Though installation wasn't straightforward due to its electrical components, we figured it out after consulting the manual. Next, he set up the shower system, starting with the rain shower head before adding the finishing pieces to the control valves. Finally, he mounted the vanity set and installed the water control right above it. I loved how the gray slatted vanity design looked both stylish and functional with its large push to open drawer. The built-in faucet and water controls tied everything together beautifully. Seeing the bathroom come together exactly as I'd envisioned was incredibly satisfying. The second part consisted of DIY work which I needed to handle myself, and I started off with the mirror installation. I had picked up a small oval-shaped mirror with an LED strip along the back edges a few months ago. I did have to modify the power cable coming from the mirror by cutting off the plug to expose the inner wires for the connection. After determining the best mounting position with a tape measure, I connected the wire from the wall to the one behind the mirror, making sure to cut power to that circuit at the panel first. After installing 75-pound wall anchors and connecting the power cable, I mounted the mirror. It looked perfect, and of course, I tested it out immediately to check the connection. Everything worked flawlessly, and I couldn't be happier about the end result. Next, I installed the hand and body towel holders, choosing super minimal designs that were quick to mount. I added a wall mount for toilet paper, even though the toilet had a built-in bidet. After mounting the toilet's remote control just above that, I finished up the bathroom by installing some staggered shelves for holding a few items. The next stage was installing cabinets for the wet bar. I found an experienced mill worker to help with my custom design, but unfortunately ended up with an unreliable contractor. This easily highlights one of the challenges of managing renovation projects yourself. You sometimes have to deal with contractors who do not meet expectations.
So we've got all the walls up, we've got paint, we've got all the pretty stuff, but we're still waiting on a few items to finish the space. So I'm trying to do this video in two parts. The first part here is going to focus on how this entire space has been transformed. So I managed most of the process and also got some hands-on work done throughout the process as well. So in my next video, I'm gonna be going over setting up the entire space to look like an actual office or a studio in this case. So there's going to be different parts of it, and I hope you guys are ready to see that because I am super excited to get that part on the way. The first part of the process here has thrown so much curveballs at me. I've learned so much throughout this entire process of managing this development process.
For the wet bar, I went with a minimal 96-inch wide cabinet that nearly spans the wall's length, with two 96-inch shelves stacked above it for storage. The cabinet was designed to be 24 inches deep and 35 inches tall, featuring 3 drawers on the far right, a dual trash can drawer right next to that, a 24-inch opening for a small sink, an 8-inch cupboard, and a bar fridge cutout. The countertop installers arrived with my new black countertop, which featured stunning large white veins throughout. I fell in love with it instantly at the showroom after I came across it. Since countertops are extremely heavy and fragile, the installation required careful handling. I chose a waterfall design that came in 2 pieces, a small vertical side piece and a long horizontal piece for the cabinet top. After carefully moving it into place, they secured it with silicone to finish the corners. To complete the look, I installed a Delta electric water faucet and matching built-in soap dispenser. These finishing touches transformed the entire wet bar area, giving it an unmistakably premium appearance. To take things further, my guy Richie returned to lay more tiles, specifically the olive green ones I had picked up earlier for the wet bar's backsplash. I chose a vertical layout for this to create the illusion of a higher ceiling. The entire process took about 2 4-hour days to complete, as he had to wait for the adhesive to dry before applying grout. That evening, we installed the handles that the mill worker had missed during the cabinet building process. I ordered some black low profile ones off Amazon, and within 3 hours, we had installed them all and got the drawers working as well as expected. The next morning, I installed LED strip lights beneath both shelves and the toe kick of the cabinet, using the wiring I had previously roughed in. I used an LED channel and a cob light strip, measuring and cutting both pieces to size for each section. Since I was familiar with the process, it went by pretty quickly. As the final touch for the wet bar, I installed a Cafe brand bar fridge I'd snagged during a Home Depot summer sale. Now, this isn't your typical bar fridge. It's a luxury piece with a stunning all-white finish and brushed bronze handle that perfectly complements the water faucet and the soap dispenser. I chose it not just for its beautiful design, but also for its versatility and smart app controls. After unpacking and installing the handle and components, I slid it into the custom cutout. With this final piece in place, my basement transformation process was complete. Seeing the finished space come to life was incredible. I couldn't be prouder of managing this entire project from start to finish. Please stay tuned for the empty studio tour video where I will be explaining a bit more how I plan to set up the entire space. Thank you guys for watching if you made it this far, and I hope to catch you in my next video. It's Tommy, and I'm out.